they do seem to have kind of dissolved the difference between the oral period and the written period. And I think partly that goes back to that idea that these are not really literary texts. They're sort of freezing of oral material. So in a sense, what you have in the Gospel is still really oral material. It's oral material sort of on its way to being slightly more literary. And so for them, there's not really any great distinction. Whereas, I mean, there's been a lot of work on orality over the last few decades, and very much the thing that comes out of those studies nowadays is that, you know, orality, it's a performance. Every time you tell a story, you tell it slightly differently, and that's part of the interest and excitement of an oral thing. You don't just recite the exact version that you had last time. You know, it's something fresh, something new, and it's linked to the context that you're talking about. It maybe highlights things that you want to highlight, again, because of that particular church context. So everyone is slightly different. There may be certain kind of phrases, certain bits and pieces that get sort of almost frozen in the tradition, but not necessarily. And the idea that you can talk about oral tradition that gets extra bits on, and it keeps those extra bits, and then extra bits get added in the same way that you can talk about written texts, does strike most people who work on orality nowadays as rather strange. So I think this, what he's saying here, is strange both from the point of view of the Gospels, which clearly aren't the same as oral traditions, and from the point of view of what we know about orality now. Yeah, and I think your point about social memory is also a really important one, because that, you can see how social memory kind of maps quite nicely onto Bultmann. This is something I hope we can come back to at the end. The idea that stories are passed around and bits are added, and social memory would be very keen to say that we only remember things because they're of use to us in the present, and that's, you know, so that Sitz im Leben thing, I think, is really strong in social memory. But no social memory theorist would want to be quite as kind of prescriptive as Bultmann in terms of being able to map out the history of these traditions in that way. Also, there's the question about genuineness, authenticity is one that doesn't really kind of concern social memory theorists very much.